God is good, and with each day that passes brings us a day closer to the launch of Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. This is the Nathan Napalm channel, and if you are new here, please consider subscribing, especially if you're interested in Pantheon related content on our march to launch. Today guys, I want to talk a little bit about, now that we know that the gear itself will not have level restrictions, there's two pieces about gear I want to talk about in this video. That fact that I just mentioned, as well as the fact that we know that practically all the gear will not be soulbound to your specific character, but you can sell it, trade it, etc. when you no longer want it. And I want to talk a little bit about how those two factors that we now know is a huge part of the development of Pantheon Rise of the Fallen, and how they kind of intersect and make sense together, and what that means for us, the players in Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. So let's talk about that. Number one, being able to twink an alternate character, an alternate tune, being able to set gear aside for it and then be able to use it for another character adds a lot of gameplay value, okay? So as you're out exploring and grouping and leveling up and all this kind of thing, and you get all these drops, some of them not even for your class, but nobody else needs them, nobody else wants them because that particular class isn't even in the group, or they got something better, whatever the case may be, and you end up with a collection of gear that isn't for your main tune. Number one, if you end up with a lot of gear for something specific, sometimes, not always, and not for all people, but a lot of the times what I've experienced is, I'll be like, you know what, I'm going to roll one of these. I have some decent gear I can give to them. I'm kind of curious about this class. I see people having fun with it, or I don't see enough of them out in the world maybe, and I'd like to be one. But the point is that getting other gear, sometimes for an alternate character, is a really cool thing, or maybe you already have this alt, it's your alt, so you're not paying as much attention to it as you are your main, obviously, but you see some gear drop, and you're like, hey, do you need this? Because I could use this for my alt. I love it. It's classic, right? The other thing about it is we don't know a lot of details about it. We're not even 100% sure that it's going to be in the game, but it feels like it's definitely a part that they want to put in the game, and it has it was mentioned. It continues to be mentioned, so it definitely at least deserves a little bit of talking about, and that would be the system we know as progeny, right? Once again, they've said several times it may not work, they may not be able to find a correct way to do it at first, or even ever, but the progeny has been there, in the list of ideas for a while, which means basically you re-roll your character after max level, and it's kind of like the child of that character, and you get some sort of benefits for doing that. Some very small stat upgrades, or whatever the case may be, however they decide to do that without it feeling too meta or necessary for everybody to do with every freaking character, right? But the thing about it is they mention it when they're talking about this gear, that you could pass it on, and maybe that gear actually has something special about it, or better properties because it belonged to your father or mother, and was passed along like a heritage piece to your progeny character, which I think is another really cool way to take that system to another level. And now we have to also talk about the fact that since the gear isn't soulbound to you, and it doesn't belong only to you who wore it, and in the classic situation of MMOs where you have to soulbind it, or whatever you may call it in that particular game, and that piece of gear only can be worn by you, okay? So that's not going to be a big part of Pantheon. I think there will be exceptions to that. I think there could be artifact gear or something like that where you can't sell it because they don't want it on the marketplace at all. They want you to have to go through these massive quests, and some people argue that all gear should be that way, and that everybody should have to work for it. But here's the deal. Being able to have a use for your gear when you don't need it anymore is just fun, okay? It's just another mechanic. It's more things for the economy, all that kind of thing, and I think it's perfectly viable. I think it should be in the game. I think you should be able to take your gear and sell it, or give it to a friend, or give it to an alt, or give it to your progeny character. I think all that is great ideas. But here's the problem. okay? Because if you can go out and you can find these cool drops and put them on the marketplace, and I know they're rare, and in Pantheon they're actually rare. It's not like rares are just dropping left and right like this is Diablo. I get it, all right? But at the same time, you'll have this availability of rare drops that can go on the marketplace, and I know it's not like an auction house, a global marketplace, we know that so far, but you know what I mean, that you can sell this to the public. All right, and in some capacity you can do that in Pantheon, we know. The problem that arises is, what about the crafters, right? That's something I don't talk about a lot on this channel yet, because we don't know a lot about the crafting. But what about them? We can't leave them in the dust, because in a Soulbound MMO, or an MMO where all the rare or good gear as you're leveling up, etc., is Soulbound and you can't sell it, the crafters have free reign. So at the very least, even in a game that doesn't have good support for the crafters, at the very least, while toons are leveling up, they're mostly buying crafted gear until they get better drops to replace it. So at the very least, the crafters get to sell their gear to people as they're leveling up, right? And you kind of take that away from them if you introduce a system where people are just selling these rare drops, unless you make the crafting gear very viable and very unique in some way, or very powerful in some way. And once again, you have to be careful with how you do that, or else it will just become a thing where everybody has to be a crafter in order to make this great gear, right? So it's all over the place. And I believe in my brain, the simplest, and I'm sure they'll get more creative than this simple idea that I literally stole from Vanguard, but just, you know, I definitely feel like the crafting to kind of overturn this problem that I just mentioned is that the crafting takes a lot of socializing as well. So to get these really cool stats on it, which is absolutely possible when you're making the gear, make it have these really cool stats and things, then you have to get with other crafters, with people who also craft, but in different fields than you are. And that's where we get into the fact of why didn't Pantheon allow you to do all the crafts on one character? Because they want you to socialize. They don't want you to just sit there and make everything with your one toon. You can get around that. You can just keep rolling toons and keep, you know, making them all different kinds of the different crafting classes. There'll be plenty of people who do that, but it's much harder. You're going to need a lot more time. It's much more of an investment, etc. That's, I believe, why they even did that. And I know I saw a lot of people complaining, like, oh my gosh, why can't we just be all the crafting classes on one character? You know, that was the big benefit to games like Final Fantasy 11, Final Fantasy 14, where we can just be anything we want to be on this one character, this one toon, this one name, yada yada yada. But if they want you to socialize even in crafting, and they want to make it more difficult and for the crafting gear to be good but not something you have to do, and you see what I'm saying, this big circle of things that they have to kind of all keep in mind that all centralize around gear, then that is the solution. You make it, you know, exactly like they're setting it up to be, and then you make it to where, just like in Vanguard, where you have to like go out and get other people to do things for your piece of gear, you know, pay them for their work and their progress into that gear, which makes the gear even more expensive, because then you're going to have to make that profit back when you sell on the market, etc., etc. It's a beautiful thing, and that's a whole subject for a whole video, but I had to point it out because it directly reflects the system they're setting in place where we can sell gear. Okay, hopefully I didn't make that too confusing. It makes sense to you. Now, we still haven't talked about the other side of the coin on gear that we now know, which is that there are no level restrictions, and how that links up with the information that we've already talked about. So let's cover that. Not having level restrictions. Okay, being able to twink your character because you can give them max level gear, let's just say. That's good. I think that's fine, and some of the MMOs I really liked over time allowed this kind of thing. And I think it's only fair. Why wouldn't you be able to wear this gear? What's holding you back from wearing the gear? I could take some plate mail that came from my great-grandfather and put it on my newborn son if I want to. It won't fit him well, right? It won't fit him well, but he can wear it. I can put it on him. There's no magical force keeping this from going on his body. So I agree with it. And of course, there's going to be systems in place, as they've talked about, that kind of limits. Obviously, you're not getting the max benefit of what that gear can do at level 1 if you wear it. And it's a max level piece of gear with all these incredible stats on it. But you can reap the rewards of having the availability of having this gear. So, number 1, what does that do? That makes gold in the game more valuable. It makes it a system where you may be like, you know what, I rolled this warrior. And I'm sorry to use warrior for all you warrior fans, just first thing came to my brain. So anyway, I rolled this warrior. I thought I was going to like it. I thought I was going to enjoy it. I freaking hate it. I'm not having fun. You know what, though? I'm just going to grind out some gear. I'm going to grind out some gold. I'm going to take everything I earned on this warrior, and I'm going to re-roll and give all the gold and this gear that I have to start fresh. And it kind of sucks. I don't want to start fresh. I don't want to start over. However, I'm giving this character a big, huge advantage in the world. So they'll have it easier than I did with this warrior that I rolled that I don't like anymore. You see what I'm saying? Now I'm going to roll a wizard. I got a couple of wizard pieces I can give them that are like level 30, let's say. And that will help him. It'll be level 1. He can wear that gear for a ridiculously long time. Sure, it won't be as powerful as it is at level 30, but it's going to be ridiculously awesome for a level 1 nonetheless, like he just got epic drops at level 1 kind of thing, which probably won't even be possible. But, you know, he'll start off in this with Into the World with a much better advantage than my warrior did or my first tune. So it is cool, I like it, and there's lots of other scenarios that go into place, but gold becomes more valuable because you can go out and you can go to these places, because I'm assuming that that's how it's going to work, something to the effect of is they give you the tools that you can set up like a shop area and let the players decide where these areas and pockets of shops will be, and players will naturally, just like they did in EverQuest, so they found the EC Tunnel, they'll find places where they sell, there'll be major marketplaces where they become popular. They could change with expansions and depending on what people are doing and what's popular for that particular time, and move the markets to different places. But in any case, you go to these markets and it'll be a dangerous journey probably, because it probably won't be near the starting area of a new tune, but he has some gold passed to him from another tune. He makes this epic journey to get to this marketplace, hoping there'll be some good stuff for sale for his tune, because he's got a pocket full of gold and plat, and he travels there and makes it there alive after a couple attempts, or maybe he uses the gold and pays some high-level characters like, hey dude, I'll pay you a couple of plat. We don't know how valuable this stuff's going to be at the beginning of the game, but so I'm making this kind of percentages up here of what it will be. But, you know, yeah, hey man, I'll pay a couple of plat if you'll just help me get to the marketplace. I'm trying to buy some stuff. And so some players are like, sure man, I'll do it for a couple of plat. Maybe they do it for free because they're guildies. Who knows? But anyway, the gold, if the more valuable it is, the more cool things you can do with gold, the more gold sinks there are in the game, etc. And the gear, being able to sell all your old gear is a big gold sink. It's a big part of keeping the economy active, alive, and cool, and all that kind of thing. And it also lets people know how valuable certain items are, I'd like to mention as well. So if you get on, and let's say 2 plat in the game at the beginning is a lot of money. Let's just say 1 plat is quite a bit of money. It's kind of hard to attain. And let's just say you go to a marketplace, you're looking for some new gear, and you find a piece of gear. There's only one of them available, at least at the place where you're shopping at that time. And you see it on the marketplace, and it's for 30 plat. And you're like, holy crap, that must be rare. And it's the only one here. Right? That kind of puts a value on things. And so later, let's say, you can't afford it. So you're like, dang, man, that's a nice piece of gear. You're looking at, you're inspecting it. You're like, dang, that's a nice piece of gear, but I can't afford it. And then let's say you get in a group and you go out and then, oh my gosh, the luckiest day ever, it drops. Now it has an actual value. You're like, holy crap, this piece of gear is worth 30 plat. I don't even know if I'm going to keep it. That's 30 freaking plat, dude. I might have to sell it, even though I could use this big time. Now you have this conundrum. Are you going to keep it? What's more valuable to you, right? Having this piece of gear that will last a really long time, has really good stats, plus you can pass it on to other characters, plus it's worth 30 plat. Are you going to sell it? Are you going to keep it? Are you going to wear it? Do you see how cool this system can be when you look at it from that perspective, right? But anyway, I got off track. So you travel to this place, however you end up getting there. You're at the marketplace. It's a level 1 or, you know, low level, let's just say. And You got a pocket full of gold and plat from your other character, so you're ready to roll. You go in there, you start buying really cool gear and getting yourself all set up and twinking your character, and then you go out and level, and you're just the man already, okay? People want you in their parties, you got good gear, you got good stats, you're doing massive damage or healing or tanking, whatever the case may be, damage mitigation, whatever it is, and you're just awesome, and you're having fun. You're having a lot of fun, because now you get to experience the game not from I'm a dirtbag loser who has nothing, but I'm actually cool and I got good stuff. Now, what about the new people who joined the game? That's okay, because most people, in my opinion, aren't going to have that advantage until the game is much older. Okay, it's much older, and we can worry about that when we get there. And there's plenty of ways we can deal with that. So what do you guys think? That was quite a bit. I've rambled on long enough. That's quite a bit of information, but that's what I'm thinking. This is where my brain is going when I'm thinking of these two things about, you know, you're able to sell most gear, it's not soulbound to you, and there's no level restrictions. And the way that interacts with each other, and the way that interacts with the other systems like the progeny and the economy and all that kind of thing. Do you guys agree with me? Is there other things I left out, or ways you're thinking of it that are much different than the way I'm thinking of it? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. I hope you enjoyed the video today, and until next time, God bless and happy gaming. Please listen to what I say. I've been making videos all day. My friends all say I'm it's a video buffet, you can even hit replay. But please just subscribe, I can't even describe being part of my tribe. I'll even offer you a prize, but just please just subscribe and hit the bell notification too.